is not for the faint of heart. We keep it real and raw and talk about issues that other podcasts wouldn't dare. This is the Truth of the Matter podcast with Dr. Spencer. Step into our world. What do you do if you fall in love with one of your kids' friends who's over 18? How do you handle getting caught in bed with your boss? Why do girls like bad boys? Are you burned out from an unbalanced career and personal life? Are you still working while your kids are telling you how their days went? Our passion is to help people in relationships, anyone you have a connection with in life, neighbors, coworkers, family, spouse, kids, yourself, and helping you achieve the work-life balance. Let's have some fun and let's get educated. This is the Truth of the Matter podcast. And now your host, Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm sorry. Look, I'm doing a pop-up today. I have my new good friend, Natalia, here, and she is a dating and relationship coach. And as I always say, you want to have perspectives from different people, not just one. I mean, let's think about it. In school, we didn't just go to one class, right? So I wanted to bring her on, and she was so gracious enough to do it. And when she and I were talking the other day, I'm like, I got to get you on because I learned so much. And she's from Argentina. Yay! So I love it. So anyway, thank you so very much for coming on today. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I am excited. I am excited about sharing the word about love and dating and relationships.
Yes. So tell them, what type of dating and relationships you focus on?
My work focus mostly around helping single women to heal from their past and to understand themselves better, to understand men better, and to learn the skills and the abilities to be able to be successful in relationships. So my dating coaching is not only about getting the guy, it's also about keeping the guy, which to me is really, really important. Married women, I help them with, when we are having issues with our marriage and we feel like the passion is gone and we are doubting if we want to keep going with this man. And that is a very, very difficult and painful situation to be in. So I help them to revamp their marriage, to kind of rediscover themselves again and kind of give it a makeover to their relationships.
Yes, phenomenal. So I'm glad you focus on that because it's so easy to get a person, like get a man or woman. It's so easy to get them, but to keeping them is a different ballgame. And so I think that that's great because for me, on the flip side, I help people who are in like shattered relationships, I call it, like relationships where they're either deciding whether we want to work things out or not, or I want to start dating again, so different things like that. So chances are for me, you're already in a relationship, you're married, you're, whatever, but it's not just intimate relationships. With my program, what my coaching focuses on relationships with anyone you have a connection to, with kids, family, colleagues, yourself, family, anyone. So I want to really bring you on because, again, especially when it comes to women, we're always like, hey, I'm the catch, I'm great. And so we think that our knight in shining armor is just going to come down like a Richard Gere on Pretty Woman and say, hey, I want to take you away and whisk you away. But we know sometimes that's not the reality. So for someone who is thinking about, like especially, let's just say you're considering an empty nester and you want to kind of get it back into the scene and dating, or you're divorced. I'm not going to say newly, whatever, you're divorced and you want to start dating. What would you recommend for someone like that?
Well, it's very nuanced. So it's hard to, what you said, it could look in so many different ways. But I'm going to pick a road. I'm going to be courageous and give advice without too much context. Okay. So the main thing is if this woman is just getting divorced, or is just starting to, to be free again, to date and to love again, I would say make sure she does the work on herself first. First, it's important for us to take time off and to work on ourselves and to see who we are now. Because during that time that we have been married to a certain person or in a relationship with a certain person, we became a different person. So we kind of have to get to know ourselves again, what our needs are. Probably if we got married when we were in our 20s or 30s and now we are divorced, probably our needs and values back then were completely different than now. There is a difference between an empty nester and a 20-year-old woman. Probably the 20-year-old woman, she wants to have kids and have a family. And probably the empty nester is ready to travel and to take on her hobbies. And she's already thinking about retiring and taking on gardening. So the first step is to get to know ourselves first and to heal from the past, to make sure that we are not bringing stuff from our past relationships to this new relationship that we are looking for, because that is going to play against us every single time. We are going to be projecting our past in our future, so we have the risk of recreate the past in the future. So I cannot emphasize how important it is to heal the past first, get to know each other, get to know ourselves again as this new version of us, and also do a little bit of a learning of the skills and the abilities that will facilitate me to be successful in relationships in this new phase in my life. So that doing first, it is really important to do that. And then after that, I will do something that I call it activating it. I would activate my light. A star doesn't reflect light. A star creates light in its own being. It doesn't need anything to create light. It's different than the moon. The moon needs the sun to reflect the light. A star doesn't need that. It's already creating it in itself. So as women, we need to activate that light that we have inside of ourselves and activate it all the time. A big mistake I see with women is that they don't want to activate that light. They don't want to turn it on all the time when they go to the supermarket, when they go to the gym, when they go, to have dinner with their girlfriends. And then they meet a guy that they like and they go in it. And it's too much. They don't have practice. It's almost like fake, and a man can see those things. So the recipe for that is just activate it all the time. Activate that light. You don't need a man to activate that light. You have it inside of you. A man gives you an opportunity to share some of that light. He's like a vase where we can pour that light in. But we really don't need a man for it. It's our true nature. It's who we are as women.
Right, and you're absolutely right. But sometimes when we're in relationships and we're coming out of relationships, we tend to lose ourselves, right? We tend to lose our identity. We tend to lose the essence of who we are, what we like, our favorite colors, because we've taken on some of the traits of our partners. So how can you say, you talked about the activation part. What do we need to do to activate? Like, what does all that entail? Because we may not know.
Well, remember that the first step I told you was about that, was about doing the work, healing from your past. Remember, I just mentioned that?
Yes.
So that first step, we cannot not do it. It's fundamental. We wouldn't build a house on sand. We need to prepare the ground. If we don't have a fertile soil, we are not going to blossom. So I'm going to repeat a little bit with what I already said. We need to do the work on ourselves first. We need to heal the past. We need to make sure we do the forgiveness work. We need to make sure we don't bring the past into our future. We need to get to know ourselves, because this woman that is standing right here, right now, is not the same woman that got married 20, 30 years ago. So we need to get to know ourselves again, dig deep on that, fall in love with ourselves again. That is the foundation. We cannot escape that. And that is something that we can do it with a man. I mean, it's not necessary that you have to do it by yourself necessarily, but so a man can provide us the safe space for us to heal and to rediscover ourselves. Now, it's going to be a lot harder to find a man that will provide that for us. It's completely doable, but so the first step is heal your past. The second step is get to know yourself right now. Find out what your values are right now, what you value in relationships right now, not when you were 20, not a year ago, right now. Find out what your needs are right now, because women go through a big hormonal change in the 40s, 50s. So even I don't specialize in sexuality. That's not my zone of genius. But I do know a lot about hormones, and I know our hormones affect our quality of life when we get older, because we lose a lot of estrogen. So, get to know yourself really well. Make sure you are in a place where you know yourself, where you know your values, you know your needs, your needs at all levels, physical, spiritually, emotionally. And then, create a place where you can invite a man to your life.
So nowadays, especially with social media and internet, where do people go to meet someone? It's not like it was really 20 years ago when you go to like the bank, the store, church, the bar. Where would you recommend meeting someone? And would location matter? Like if I'm in Jersey, you're in Nevada, would that matter?
You mean the distance?
Yes.
Well, that depends. It's also very nuanced. It depends on everybody's different. What is the person in Nevada willing to move eventually? In that case, it doesn't matter. I wouldn't recommend long distance for a long time, because I believe that keeping a relationship only on text and phone calls, we really, really don't get to know we really don't get to know really well the person until we meet them in person. Right. So I think it could work. There are a lot of ways to make it work. Nowadays, there are flights going out of Las Vegas to New Jersey every hour, and the flight is only a few hours. So, it could work. It could be that one weekend, one person flies to one side, the other, and eventually they agree where they're going to live. So the idea is, what I'm trying to say is, if it could work. It's all about how creative the couple is and how much they are willing to get creative on making it work.
Right.
And about
Oh, no, go ahead.
and about the places, what makes you say that meeting people at the supermarket or in the bank or that is not working anymore?
Well, it's funny because like I've had clients who say, that it happens, but now because of online, you don't really need to go to the bank often. Like I can't even tell you the last time I've been to a bank because I do it online now.
Yeah.
So nowadays, where would you find, like, should you go online and date? Like, what do you think about that?
That's one way. Now, the thing, my own experience is that most of my clients don't want to go online. They don't want to. So the way we make it work is through going to the supermarket, going to every single where they go, and they have to try to put themselves in social situations. I mean, I tell them, okay, you don't want to do the online dating. The online dating is the fastest way right now. I believe in online dating, and I bring it to the table and I tell them you need to go to join an app. And they're like, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, but don't think that because you are not going to be on an online app, you are not going to be out of your comfort zone. You will. So we start to brainstorm where can they start to put themselves out actively. It's not going to happen if they stay home and wait for somebody to knock at their door. So it will take, it's like finding a job. You need to put yourself out there. And if you don't want to do it online, you'll have to go to networking events. You'll have to tell everybody that knows you that you're looking for a job. And that's what I tell them. Tell everybody that you are looking for your forever true love. If you know, yes, absolutely.
Well, okay, you have to explain that. You have to explain it. So is that when you meet someone or it's situation? I mean, if you're at the places, like when do you say that?
To your friends and your family and people that you know.
Really?
You just tell them. I am people that hire me. They are really, really serious about. I am not playing here. I am not wasting my life. Our relationships, I believe, is the most important. It's the most important thing we will ever have. A job comes and goes. Everything else, the kids come and go. Everything comes and go. Our partner stays with us.
You're right.
Until the end, and we spend the most time with them. So usually the kind of women I attract are women that really want to be in a relationship. So if they really want to be in a relationship, I'll give you an example. I had a client, she has a lot of male friends and they're great guys, but they're married. So she's letting them know they're great guys, but they're married. So that's a bad situation. Could look like a bad situation if we look at that in one way. So how I suggested her to look at it was, these are great guys and they're married and they're happy in their relationship. So they must have great guy friends. Because a great guy usually have great friends. 99% of the time works like that. If we meet a guy and the guy has very bad friends that are all players and womanizers and cheaters, you run away from that guy because there is a big chance that the guy will be the same way. It's just a matter of time before it shows. So what I said is, tell them, share with them, Say, you know what? I am really serious about getting married. I want to start a family. And if you know any friend that you think we will be a good match, I wouldn't mind if you hook me up on a date.
Wow. So when you, let's say for instance, you're past that and you find someone, what are some of the things that you should say, like even going on a date? Like, sometimes that's the hardest thing. Like, what am I going to say? What if I say something stupid? We're always thinking of these things. What if I ask too many questions? Because sometimes you can go on a date and you feel like you're on the first 48 where they're like interrogating you, like boom, boom. You're like, oh my gosh. So when you find someone, you're on that first date, how should you, like I said, communicate? What kind of questions should you ask?
On the first date, usually I suggest them to go there with the high intention of enjoying themselves and receiving gracefully. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So just have a good time and receive gracefully. He tells you oh, you look so pretty today. Oh, thank you so much. And that's it. And listening with the intention of getting to know the guy. Not listening with the intention to have the right answer or what am I going to say, or that is not listening. Listening with the intention of listening, just listening, what he's saying, what is coming out of his mouth. And just staying in a place of receiving and being grateful and being gracious and not worrying too much about what to say and what not to say. To let the guy do the most of the talking. Because in my world, these ladies are vetting the guy. So now a few questions, of course, I prepare them with a couple of things. Because they can sit there and smile and be like this all the time. But usually I suggest them to ask them, to build rapport and ask them about a peak experience. Let's say they talk about a trip. They say, oh, I went to the Himalayas or whatever, or I went to Key West, or I went to New York. Oh, what was your favorite part of it? Find something positive that he can share with you. And just, keep finding those kind of positive things. Another thing I suggest them to do. So number one is ask them for a peak experience.
Okay.
Everybody loves to talk about their experiences, but it has to be the best experience they have had in X, Y, or Z situation.
Okay.
The second thing that I suggest them is to have a couple of stories from their own life to share. So whatever they want to convey, if they are adventurous and they are looking for a mate that is adventurous, so share a story in their lives where they were adventurous. And write down that story and have that story and repeat that story date after date after date.
Okay.
So that's something that seems to work out well. And the first date, I particularly don't suggest my clients to be longer than 45 minutes or an hour.
On the date? Wow. So that means you're not going out for dinner. You're going out for drinks or
no drinks. I don't suggest alcohol on the first date.
Okay. So
it's very hard to handle alcohol for most women and to not loosen up a little bit too much.
Okay. So where would you recommend, what would you recommend for 45 minutes, an hour? Are you going
out? Coffee or a quick lunch.
Okay.
Or a sandwich. I went on 200 dates in 2 years, 200 first dates in 2 years. So, of course, I got really good at it. So my favorite place became this cute, very cozy European bakery where they had a lot of different pastries. I love pastries, and coffee. So I would meet them there usually.
200?
200.
Wow.
First dates. I mean, only a couple of them I saw more than once.
Wow, so let me ask you, since you date, do you tell someone you're dating? Because that always comes up, it seems, on the first date. They're like, hey, are you dating someone else? So is it okay to say, yes, I'm dating other people?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is no reason. My dream for my women is to find love and to be able to keep it while being authentic and not pretending. That is freedom. So if the guy asks them if they are dating somebody else, yes, I am. Yes. Why are you asking me that? Why are you asking me that?
No, I just wanted to know your opinion. I totally agree. I think you should be very direct, and I think you should be honest about it, because it's almost like you're trying before you buy, right? You don't necessarily know that person. They don't know you. You may have the intentions of one day, okay, I want to find someone I can be in a relationship with, but it's okay to date. And sometimes people don't always feel that way. They think, okay, whomever I go on a date with, I'm going to marry them. But that's not always the case. It's not. I mean, we like to think it is, but chances are it's not. So
I think maybe what you are saying dating is, maybe the definition is different than what I think dating is. Dating is when you meet somebody and you go and meet them for coffee or lunch and to know them in person, and that's dating. It's when you are not committed to them, you don't know. You are when you are knowing them. The relationship, our relationships have a timeline, and I think that's why so many women find dating so they don't like dating. So I think relationships have a timeline, and it's scientifically proven that people that follow this timeline are successful in marrying and staying married, and the people that don't follow this timeline are successful in having painful situations. So the timeline goes like this. First, you know the person. Okay? Once you know the person, you trust them based on their actions. So they give you reasons to trust them. You just don't trust somebody because you met them once and they're cute.
Yeah.
You have to trust them once they have given you enough reasons to trust them. After trusting, there is the third part. That is when you become reliable. So you rely on him. So you know him, you trust him, and now you rely on him. You are like, hey, I'm going to go on a business trip. Can you come to my condo and water my plants? Okay? He proves that he waters your plants.
Right.
So he's reliable. And once you rely on him, you commit to him. And that's the part where you become exclusive, or whatever commitment looks for you. You see the timeline? That's 4. And 5 is touch, is sex. So up until point number 4, you can date as many people as you want. Because you're not committed to anybody. And it actually works in women's disadvantage to become exclusive with somebody before they trust him, before he's reliable, or to have sex with somebody before they know him, before they trust him, before they rely on him, and before there is some kind of commitment. But we do it all the opposite way.
Yes.
Because we think that because he's cute and we feel attraction, that is a connection. And that is not a connection. That is just our hormones going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So that answers your question a little bit?
Yeah, you're right. And we do it backwards. We really do. That's why I asked. I'm like, okay, so what do you say? Because you're right. And so often that's where like someone will come and they're heartbroken because they have done it out of order. You know, they've kind of gone in and they've just went and gave the person their heart, and then you have sex and then all this other stuff, and now it's almost like you're heartbroken because you did not even you didn't even take the time to know this person's middle name. You know, you're already playing like the wife role. You know, you do. So at what point of the 4 would you recommend maybe meeting your children if you have any?
Well, that is a personal choice, but usually meeting the children happens right after you know him, you trust him, you rely on him, you are committed, and you have had the conversation about the kids. Mm-hmm. Because there is a conversation that has to happen about, parenting styles. Mm-hmm. How is that going to work out? Because you don't want to introduce your kids to somebody that then 6 months later you realize that he was never interested in helping you out, if that's what you wanted and needed.
Right.
You see? So there has to be a conversation before that. And that's the part that a lot of women also struggle. I mean, no wonder why relationships are so complicated and difficult, because we struggle a lot because we don't talk about the important things.
Right.
So it's important to have a conversation about, not necessarily unless in the first phases of the relationship, it could sound something like this. Hey, I am looking for my forever true love, and I would like him to help me co-parent my kids. You are not telling him, hey, I want to marry you and I want you to help me parent my kids, but you are saying what you want. Mm-hmm. And then he can jump in and say, yes, I am on board. That's something that I would like to do. Mm-hmm. Or he can say, well, no, that's not what I want. But it's better to know that before the kids are involved.
I agree. I think that conversation definitely needs to be had, because the average age of people that I know, right, or are going through this, they're in their 40s, mm-hmm. somebody in their 50s. So they already know what it is. They are pretty familiar. And so I would always say, don't introduce everyone to your children, right? Make sure, as you just said, that you're in a committed relationship and you have a clear understanding of where that relationship is going. Because what happens is children develop relationships with that person as well. And so you don't want it not to work out. And then next thing you know, the kid's looking around like, hey, what happened to whomever? What happened to John? What happened to Jack? And John and Jack is gone. And so there's times where once the two of you are not together, he kind of, leaves the relationship with the children too. So you're right. These steps have to be taken so that you don't have to come and be like, look, I'm upset because my kid is acting out because my ex and I broke up, and you have to take these steps. And I know sometimes, especially if you haven't been dating a while, right? Would you agree? You haven't dated a while. So when you meet someone, you're excited, and then you want to do everything so quickly. I want to go out. We're going to go out for coffee. And then 3 days later, we're in bed. And then I'm saying, hey, we're getting married and you want to meet the kids. No, it doesn't work that way. It shouldn't work that way. You need to really take your time to get to know that person.
Yes.
right?
And that the taking the time to know the part, I want to say this because it depends. It depends on the level of consciousness that each partner has.
Mm-hmm.
So if the two people involved in the relationship, they are very conscious, they know themselves, they have done the work, they know what they want, and they know how to recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
That timeline is going to look a lot shorter than somebody that has never done the work, that is living life, like everybody else on the little wheel, living day by day, never ask themselves one question.
Right.
It's going to look completely different. So I keep saying that relationships are very nuanced. So that's why I love the work that I do, because it's one-on-one. It's extremely personalized.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in putting people in boxes because that doesn't work. We are all very nuanced. So that's something that has to be said too, because some people, they in 3 months, they already know.
Right, right,
But
right. So here's a big question that I actually got that I definitely want to hear your perspective on it. So now, people are working longer hours, even forget the COVID, but even if they're working their full-time job, they're running businesses, things like that, right? So when you start dating someone, sometimes the hardest part is time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I know some of these things are like nuanced, they're case by case, but what about like the time that, that people always ask, like, hey, well, when do you have time for me? Right. So when do you make the time? Because I always think if you want to date that person, you will make the time. Right?
Correct.
But what they'll do is the same thing as you just said. They'll text an entire conversation. You need to actually meet, right? You need to kind of talk. So my question even for you is, you go out on a date, what do you wear? And I know it could be, depending on the situation, but should you dress sexy? Should you, because hey, maybe you haven't been in a relationship long. So what would you recommend even as far as like what you should wear?
Well, that's a good question, and I'm definitely, it's not my zone of genius. I actually interviewed a friend that is a fashion designer, and she helps women with that. But of course, I have my opinions, and I would say what I did when I was dating. I still do to today. I went through my closet,
Mm-hmm.
and I literally removed everything that I didn't like, or everything that was worn out, or that had stains from coffee. I have a superpower that the lighter the top, the blouse, the more coffee I will drop on it, or tomato soup. So all those things, even to today, almost 20 years later, I still follow that rule. I took everything out.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever was, I could give to somebody, I did, and the rest went to recycle.
Mm-hmm.
So the closet is absolutely full of pieces that I can go with my closed eyes, pick whatever I want, and everything fits me perfectly, and I feel pretty on everything I own. So there is that, the first step. I like steps, as you. I like
I like
simple things. I like
Yes,
to, because we are busy, as you
yes, I love
said.
steps. Mm-hmm.
Put a job, kids, and then you have to add dating. Gosh, it's hard. So
Yeah.
so we simplify it and make it very efficient for us. So that's the first step. And the second step, I would wear things that I felt really pretty on it. And nothing to, I was showing it was in South Florida. Also, weather has a lot to do with it, depending on weather is what you're going to wear. I was living by the beach, so I was wearing blouses, and I was showing my décolleté and shoulders, and just skirts. My skirts were up to my knees or below my knees with a nice long, slit, you call it?
Yeah.
Somewhere on the back, on the side, in the front. I think that's super sexy, but you're still not showing a lot.
Mhm.
And, just things. I am very simple. These earrings I'm wearing, these pearls,
Yeah.
are the same pearls I wear on my 200 dates. I mean, I still keep them. So, as I said, I am not the best. My main, on that area, my main thing is pick outfits that you love and stick to that. You can wear the same outfit with different guys. They don't know. They don't know. Okay? So it's just a matter of wearing things that fit your personality, that fit your body, that flatter your body. And if you have any doubt about that, you can shoot me a message and I'll hook you up with my friend who that's what she does. Or you can we all have a friend that is a fashionista,
Yeah.
or, so
Yeah.
ask for some advice. Just say, hey, can you give me a couple of pointers? What looks best on me? What I wouldn't recommend is showing too much, cleavage.
Mhm.
For some reason, I don't think that looks good, but that is a matter of my taste.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think if the bust is big, I think it's better to cover it. So to show it, but some women wear very, like super, like their boobs are out. And I
Right.
think for a first date, that may send the wrong message.
Right.
And although, uh, it's up to the man to imagine whatever he wants to imagine, but
Right.
you may avoid a little bit of a trouble if you are a little bit more on the conservative side.
Right. Okay, so fast forward. We got the man. How do we because a lot of times, like you mentioned, right? You're wearing something that's so pretty. He loves it. He's like, that's my favorite outfit.
Yeah.
Right? You're in the relationship and you get comfortable. I hear this so many times. It's happened to me. You get comfortable because you're working.
Yeah.
Probably now you're working more hours. You take care of the kids. You're doing this. You're doing that. How do you keep them? Because he may say, you know what? You're doing all these things and you're great, but it's different now. So how do you keep them?
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, the simple answer, the very simple answer is go on dates. Like, grab your calendar. It takes effort. Yes, it does. And that's it. We need to accept it. To keep the relationship going, it takes effort. So you grab your calendar and he grabs his calendar and you put a date there every week and you go on a date. You make it a priority, 2 hours a week. And that's it. And if you have kids, that could be an issue for some couples because, to hire a babysitter or whatever. In that case, again, I go to get creative. It takes a village. I love that saying because it's true. It takes a village. So if you don't have enough friends to swap on babysitting duties, your neighbor is going on a date with her husband, he drops the kids for 2 hours with you, and then you do the same. If you don't have a community that supports you in that way, create it.
Yeah, create it. You're right. Because, sometimes we're afraid to ask people because we have people who may say, hey, if you need me, call, and you don't never call. And I tell people, I say, look, my clients, even if you don't go out, like per se, which I think we should, but even if you don't go out, you stay home.
Yeah, it could be a date at home. I didn't say going out. I said date. Could be a picnic in our living room, naked. Could be cooking together.
Right.
It doesn't have to be out.
Exactly. create these things at home, but make sure that it is actually a date, right? And you're right.
Correct.
Go through those, the resources. Okay, so-and-so can pick up my kids. So-and-so can watch your kids.
Correct.
Make sure you do. So you're right. Have that strong, that system.
Yes,
And
a support system. Yeah.
The support system.
Well, you mentioned something that you say, I think I heard you saying that it's hard to ask for help. And can I ask you to do a little exercise?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
breathe in through your nose. Just breathe in and don't breathe out.
Oh gosh.
Can you do it?
Yeah, okay.
You see, that is giving and receiving.
Good one, yeah.
There is no one without the other one. It's something that cannot exist by itself. And thinking that we are not receiving, it's a very faulty kind of thinking, because we are receiving even if we don't know it. So we better own it and realize that it's the same, it's different sides of the same coin.
You're absolutely.
So that's it.
Yeah. So let me ask you another question, because this comes up too. You go on your date, you start dating. Do you ask about their careers or just anything? Because guess what? You don't want to go with someone who's like, maybe wanted by the police. So do you ask about their career, things like that? Because I think it's not so bad to ask, because you're getting to know that person, and that is a part of maybe the conversation. Not necessarily talking about work, but like, what do they do?
Not on my model of coaching, not on the first date.
Okay.
Not on the first date, no. The first date, it's all about getting to know him, trying to get on our feelings, see how we feel, and just receive, and just getting to know him, listening to him, and just being in the moment, present, without any attachment to the result. The first date is a freebie they get.
Right. I agree.
It's a freebie they get. Unfortunately, women hate this because they want to know. It's just they won't know. And they hate me when they tell them this. And sometimes, some women, I work with very successful, strong women. And when I tell them, you won't know, they want to kill me. Thank God I coach online, so they cannot get me. Because they want to know, and I understand, but that is part of the letting go and staying with your feminine energy and being, just getting to know him. Right. Trying to know on the first date his, where he works, how much he makes, whatever. It's just trying to control the situation.
I agree.
And you are robbing yourself from the opportunity to really being present and listening to your intuition and your own body cues that will tell you if you really want to see him again or not. And then if you want to see him on a second date, and let's say you are Catholic, and for you, raising your children Catholic is a must, well, that will be a good opportunity, because you already saw him for about an hour, you like him. So there you that's an important question to ask in the second date, third date, if you're not sure on the second date, if you really like him. But not on the first date. The first date is a freebie they get, and I know it sucks, but it's the only opportunity we have as women to let them be and to show us who they are really. Because a lot of men know what to answer. A lot of men know what to answer, and they know how to answer what we want to hear.
That is absolutely true.
Yeah.
That is true. That's why I said, when you even go on the first date, don't start asking a lot of questions like you're interrogating, right?
Yeah. There is time. If my clients are looking for somebody to marry or to be in partnership if they don't value the marriage forever. So they will have their whole life to talk about boring things.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I totally agree. I know sometimes even they'll get asked. Like my clients, they'll get asked. But like I said, mine are already married and in situation. They're already there, so they already know all these things, right? But you're right, because a lot of times on the first date, we automatically want to know how much he makes and this, that, and the other. And really, do you want anyone to ask you that on the first date about how much you make? Right? Chances are no, right? You
I wouldn't, for sure.
I don't want to ask the person how much they make or just different things, because that's just way too personal. And you're right, you're not getting to actually know that person.
Yeah. That's the main reason. It's that you are robbing yourself of a priceless opportunity to get to know the other person. And that's what the first date should be about.
Right.
It's about getting to know this person and listening to your own intuition and feelings and see how you feel. If it feels good, you keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm. So at the end of that date, or whenever you date, what if they don't? I think generally if they want to go on a second date or a third date, they'll just come out and say it, right? So you don't really have to say, hey, are we going out again? I think they'll say it. And if not, then you know what? Maybe it will not progress. But I generally think that people will ask about a second date.
Yes.
Right? So even with the like getting into it, you're already into a relationship and like you said, keeping the relationship. Sometimes even for me, like this, my part where I come in is like that whole work-life balance thing. Because you have to look at what is important and when. Often what I find my clients, right, when they say they don't have time to go out on a date with their husbands or whomever, I said, well, do like a time management sheet, right? And see where you're spending your time. Because what I have found is that at least 2 hours out of the day, it's the internet is doing things that really are not significant. So you do have time.
You are so right about that. I am with you 100%.
Yeah. Because even for me, I'm like, okay, even with the time management thing, I'm saying, wait a minute, I just spent like 3 hours just surfing the net, looking at nothing, just doing that. And so when you say you don't have time, then that's what it is. But you're right. You have to make time. Whatever you did to get that person, you need to keep the same momentum.
Correct. We have to keep creating that relationship and recreating it. Otherwise, it's gonna die. It's just the way it goes.
Right. It's almost like a flame, right, on a candle. If there's no warmth there, it doesn't it'll die out.
We weren't supposed to live this long, We were supposed to live up until 30 something.
I know.
So we had enough time to meet the guy, have sex, have a couple of kids, and then die. But now we do that, and we still have half of our lives in front of us.
Right.
So we need to get creative, and and also accepting that there are seasons for things. There are seasons where our relationships are going to take a lot of energy and space. There are seasons where our kids are going to take more energy and space. There are seasons where our job is going to take more energy and space. And I think being aware of that and accepting that fact of life, it's very wise. The more we fight those things, the more that those things will persist.
Right.
Because it's part of life. If that's why I say my clients are very serious about the results, because they are making a commitment of time, energy, money to work on this, because they are in that season in their lives where, okay, I have done this, that, and that, and now I want to focus on this. So, and they make the time and all that. But then, in the future, that is going to change.
Right.
Because once they get it, it doesn't require as much energy to maintain. It's like when you are on a diet. If we are overweight and we want to lose the weight, it takes a lot of effort and energy and consciousness to lose the weight, and self-discipline and time management and writing down calories and all that in order to lose the weight. But the few people that manage to lose the weight, that manage to get there, they find that maintaining doesn't take as much energy.
Right. And I'm glad you brought some points up, because I know sometimes we get into these, we get into the marriage, we get into the relationship, and again, like I said, we lose ourselves. But even when it comes down to our who we are and how we look, so we don't want to look like, you don't want to look like a derelict, or you want, keep yourself up.
Yes.
That is very important. Your appearance, right?
It is important. Yes. I wish it weren't. Honestly, I wish it were. I am at that age when I am like, I'm done. It has been almost 50 years of keeping up with this, but it is important.
Right.
It is. And it's, again, we either accept it and do the best we can with it, or we resist it, and the pain is going to persist. So it's a reality. Men are attracted to a woman that takes care of herself. That doesn't mean that she has to weigh 140 pounds and, be blonde or brunette or, whatever. But it's somebody that takes care of herself.
Right.
And that, and her health too.
Right. That's important too, right? That health thing, because again, there's so, you get into these relationships, and the next thing you hear, like, you have diabetes, you got this, you have that. Some things are beyond our control. But when it comes to other things, we do have the control.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Same thing with the men, though.
Yeah, you're right.
Can I tell you a funny story?
Please do.
My husband and I were last year or 2 years ago, I can't remember. We were across the street visiting our neighbors, and he's overweight. And his wife, she was telling me how he's overweight and whatever. And he looks at me and tells me this. He says, if you were my wife, you wouldn't look that way. You would be overweight. And I just naturally, then I said, oh my God, did I say that? But I looked at him and I said, if you were my husband, you wouldn't look like that. You would be in shape. And that's really my truth. I mean, that's a requirement I have. You cannot let it go. You can't. I'm not talking, I am older, so things are not in the same place. And, and my husband either, we are older. My husband is in his 50s. I am almost 50. So things are, the skin is not the same,
Right.
So but I have a good skincare routine. Actually, 2 years ago, I have been a sun worshiper my whole life, and that got me a lot of sun damage. So 2 years ago, I decided to go really heavy on sunscreen. Now I wear sunscreen every day, even if I don't get out of the house. And he does too, of course, because anything I do, he has to do. So, it's all about doing what we can with what we have.
Right. And sometimes I think you have to reinvent the relationship, like I said, and that goes with trying different things, maybe surprising him or him surprising you, different things. And I think that's great, because again, we get in relationships and we get comfortable, and mostly because really our jobs, just life, period. Yeah. And I don't think COVID probably have done, it's probably done a little disservice because we kind of lost ourselves because of the COVID. But now I don't want to say post-COVID because, we're probably never out of post-COVID. But I think we have to go back to that. I even had to remind myself of that too, right?
What do you mean by, it wasn't my experience. What do you mean by that you let yourself go? What's that about the COVID?
Oh, because I remember for me, I'm in healthcare, like by trade, right?
Uh-huh.
So I was working very long hours. I mean, like
Okay.
16 hours because I have like the larger insurance companies. So it could be thousands of people that are under those insurance plans.
Okay.
So for me, working from home is different than actually going out. So I'm sitting at a computer, like I said, all day.
Yes.
And so what I started to notice is, wait a minute, I'm gaining like weight because I haven't been.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I haven't been since going in the office. So I had to tell myself, like, look, even if it's 30 minutes per day, which guess what? Who cares about that? It's not like anything's going to happen in 30 days. Get out there, start moving, doing different things, right? And then also, I figured, okay, even if I'm home and I'm working from home, I'm getting up and I'm getting dressed.
Very good.
Yeah, at least, I'm getting dressed. Because what started happening was I have a lot of like pajamas that look like outfits, but they're not. They're pajamas, right? And people actually thought that they were like outfits, but they're not. But I had to stop wearing them because for me, it was more of a psychological thing.
Absolutely, yes.
I'm like, okay.
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm getting up and I'm getting fully dressed and made up just like if I was going to work. And that's why I said for some people, COVID got us very comfortable with staying home because we didn't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
There's no one to see.
Yeah.
Right? So, yes. And even that, what I started noticing even with people who have spoken to me, just different things, when it came to the COVID, it was more like the mental health would play a part in our physical condition, if you will. I've heard women say, oh, my husband said I let myself go and this and the other. And I know even like my parents was like, nah, you know what, you got to get up and move. Just start moving. Even if it's home, like do something. So, again, that's that whole getting the person and keeping them.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Yes. Well, thank you so very much. So please, I appreciate
Thank you. I enjoyed it tremendously. Thank you.
So
You're adorable.
Oh, you too. I love it. So can you tell them where they can find you? And I have all your information, but let people know where they can find you.
Well, the easiest way is Instagram, probably, at Epic Love Coach. For those that are listening, if you're watching this, it's on the screen. That's the best way. I have a link there with my website, with all my program, my coaching, everything is there.
Yes. So. Well, thank you so very much again. And thank everyone for coming on. I really appreciate it. And, let's just keep on keeping on. So if you're out there and you want to start dating, please reach out. Me, like I said, you're already in the relationship and you're trying to decide, am I staying? Am I going? What am I doing? Or it's just whomever you are in a relationship with. So again, thank you so very much. I appreciate you. And let's keep in touch. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you listening in. Thank you.
You've been listening to The Truth of the Matter with Dr. Spencer. Yes, we talk about taboo topics, but that's life, and we keep it real and raw. Our passion is to educate and enlighten. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review the show, and we'll be back soon. But if you have a unique relationship situation and you'd like help, or you're tired of having to choose between your career and personal life, Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer is a life alignment strategist and a certified life, relationship, and business coach. So make sure to reach out on Instagram and TikTok at Dr. Lamarr Spencer, on Twitter at Dr. Spencer 15, on Facebook at Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer, and the website drlamarrspencer.com. Or go old school and call 973-214-6464. Don't forget to purchase the book, The Depth and Diversity with Relationships. Find it on Amazon and the website. See you next time on The Truth of the Matter.
Oh, here you are.